Welcome back to License to Review. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Today, Eric has the license to review the fourth in the James Bond series. It's Thunderball, and this is the first of these that unfortunately I didn't get around to watching with Eric. I have seen this movie before, and it was my favorite until I saw Goldfinger. Yeah.
Okay, so before I actually get to talking about the movie, I've talked about some background stuff, just a little bit. In many ways, Goldfinger is the most important film in James Bond cinematic history for, like, structure and style, and like, that's the movie where, like, it really completely found itself, right? For behind-the-scenes reasons, this is the other most important film in the James Bond history, but for all bad reasons. So in the late 50s, Ian Fleming hooks up with a guy named Kevin McClory to make a James Bond movie. They work with a screenwriter to develop a script for a James Bond movie, and Ian Fleming's not feeling it and leaves the project. He then takes that script and turns it into the novel Thunderball. Then there's a lawsuit because everything comes out of Thunderball. Spectre, Blofeld, those all first appear in Thunderball. And so Kevin McClory claims ownership of Spectre and Blofeld and all of these things. So if you see this is the only James Bond film that lists him as a producer, because contractually they had to.
Oh, okay.
He had to. It also gave him the rights to make a remake of Thunderball, which is how we get Never Say Never Again.
Okay.
And there was also a movie in the 90s they tried to make that was also a remake of Thunderball called Warhammer 2000, which I think was going to have Timothy Dalton was going to come back.
I feel like I've heard of that, but I didn't even realize it was a James Bond thing.
The Warhammer 2000?
Yeah.
Sorry, not Warhammer. Maybe what was Warhammer? There's Warhammer 40K, which is a RPG thing.
Yeah.
I think it was Warhammer. I'm
Okay.
misremembering.
Yeah, sure.
So, this puts kind of a negative shadow over all of the James Bond films moving forward because there is an ongoing legal battle. After Diamonds Are Forever, we stopped using Spectre and Blofeld. There's going to be a film later where we murder Blofeld in the first, in the opening scene. We murder Blofeld. We don't show his face or say his name.
Which one is that?
I think it's Octopussy. It's one of the later Roger Moore ones.
Okay.
I think it's Octopussy, but I could be wrong. It might be. I think it's I don't remember. It's the beginning of one of the James Bond ones where we murder him, and that's like a big, like, F you
We'll get there eventually.
to Kevin McClory, where it's just like, yeah, we don't need you. We don't need this stuff. James Bond's James Bond. And then it's the reason that there's so long. It's why Dalton only does 2 films, because we get into a court case that delays the production of another James Bond film to the point where he feels he's too old to do the role. It's also why there's such a long span between Quantum of Solace and Skyfall. That was the last of Legal Battles, and the guy died, and we got all the and they got all the rights back, and then they made Spectre. So,
yay!
A lot of negative history with this film behind the scenes. The film itself, and I should say, novel's not one of my favorites. I love the beginning of the novel. When we actually get to the Thunderball stuff, I'm less impressed. At the beginning of this, James Bond goes to like a health spa. And in the film, he goes intentionally, like looking for, like it's part of the mission. Like he's looking for information. In the novel, he's forced to go by M, who thinks he's in bad health and needs to go to like a health spa, and it's a real like making fun of like health nuts and things like that, and it's hilarious. There's a point in where James Bond is on this like stretcher thing, and that's when the guy like tries to kill him.
Death trap.
Yeah.
I never bought that death trap. It's really funny.
In the book, it's great because it's stretching him. I think in the movie it shakes him a little bit. In the book, it's stretching him, and what's going through his head is like, oh no, M's crazy. Someone has to stop M. He's sending people to this place. It's really fun. And none of that's really in the movie because, well, you're not going to be in his head. But also, they made it more organic to the plot. It is kind of conviient in the book that he just goes to this place.
That's the thing you've complained about a lot, where we take out the substance, but we leave the story.
Yeah.
Or the plot, anyway.
This one is actually a little bit better. I think Domino is probably the most complex to this point Bond girl. I don't think she's much different than she is in the book. I mean, there's probably some nuance that, is missing, but, like, I think she might be the best Bond girl to date, at least as far as complexity goes.
Yeah.
Thunderball is a movie I enjoy a lot until the third act.
Does it just go too off the rails?
No, it goes underwater and gets really boring.
Oh, that's right.
It's so slow. I watched the underwater battle at 1.5 speed. Because, like, I would still get dialogue and stuff. It doesn't matter. There's no dialogue. There's just underwater. And it goes forever, and it's so boring, and it's so slow because it's underwater. And I understand historical context, right? Like, that was a big deal. We've never done anything like that. It doesn't make it not boring to me now.
Yeah.
This is...
Yeah, there's having a historical perspective, and there's just not being entertained.
Yeah,
In your life, you are, yeah.
This is... Immediately, they knew everything that worked about Goldfinger. This isn't like we rushed it. Well, I mean, it probably was rushed out. The James Bond movies were yearly for a while, but this isn't a thing where, like, they have no idea what it was that worked about Goldfinger. Like, lightning struck, and they were like, can we do that again? Like, let's try and do that again. Like, they know exactly what worked about Goldfinger, and they do it all again, except for the third act, and that's just maybe a taste issue. They do it again kind of perfectly. Like, they perfectly replicate what works about Goldfinger in Thunderball.
Without just making the same movie again.
Yeah. I mean, plot beat-wise, in some ways it is the same movie again. In certain ways, James Bond films are kind of structured very similarly.
It's weird. It was weird seeing this before Goldfinger.
Yeah.
Because I had always heard complaints that this goes way off the rails compared to that. I think Goldfinger in some ways is weirder.
Yeah.
Or at least is weird. I don't know. I don't think that's all that much weirder than Goldfinger.
I don't think any of the Sean Connery films go off the rails until the next one. That's one where we go a little bit too far in certain ways. It's important. That's where we first see Blofeld, but, like, and it's really funny, like, in some of the ways it goes off the rails, but it's not, I don't think this goes off the rails.
I think that for some people that scene in the spa is just too much.
Okay.
Like, some people just think that's really goofy and cheesy and they can't deal with it.
There is some goofiness. So one of the things I've always hated in this movie is the jetpack they use at the beginning. He uses a jetpack to get away from. This also was the movie where he punches a man who's dressed up as a woman, which we parody in Austin Powers. And the tell is that he opened the car for himself. He didn't wait for someone to open the car door for him. And he punches him out. And he gets away with a jetpack. It was a real working jetpack developed by the military. Like, it's completely authentic. Someone is really flying.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Super dangerous.
And it doesn't look green screen or.
And I've always thought it.
Or is it?
It does. It does when you cut to Sean Connery.
Okay, you're sure. Yeah.
But I've always thought it looked too dopey. Like, it doesn't look cool. And I decided to just rewatch the behind-the-scenes features before I talked about this, just because I wanted to. It's been a while since I looked at the Kevin McClory stuff. I wanted to just kind of refresher on that. They thought so too. And what makes it dopey, and I didn't think, I never put it together until I saw them talk about it, it's that he's wearing this big, dumb, dopey helmet. It's not that the jetpack is silly, it's that he's wearing a big, dumb helmet. And they asked the person who's doing the stunt to not wear the helmet, and he said no, because it was way too dangerous, and he wasn't going to do that. They're like, I bet James Bond would look way cooler if he didn't have the helmet on. I don't know why they didn't just have him not wear the helmet in the close-ups. Like, we cut around a lot of stuff in movies of this day. Like, why don't they just cut to Sean Connery where he's not wearing a dopey helmet?
Yeah, but even in back-off shots, it would be clear that he was wearing a helmet. I mean, it would look like you were cutting from a helmet to not a helmet. Like,
yeah.
I don't think you get away with that. Because every time you would just see his feet. You just see part of his body. That would be weird.
I would try and not. I would have tried to find a way around it.
Yeah, sure.
Because it looks dopey. I never put my finger on like what it was about that. I always because that is the thing in this movie that I always thought was too far. But I could never point out why. It's because he's got a helmet.
Well, in that case, it might just have not even been worth using a real jetpack.
Yeah.
Especially because you don't have it with the close-ups anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's been a while since I've seen this, isn't the jetpack the Joker has, the Mask of the Phantasm, a little bit similar to that jetpack?
Yes, it is. It doesn't have the things up here, but I do think there was a grabby bit here, like up part of the vest, like on the parachute.
Okay.
I don't think there's the handles. But no, that's always bothered me, and I was so glad I could finally put my finger on it. The villain for this, Emilio Largo, or Emil Largo, is very iconic, but that actor has no presence. It's like, this is the one with the eye patch, and like, he's number 2. And again, we do this in Austin Powers. He doesn't have a lot of presence, and that's a thing that gets simplified. So in the book, Largo is number 2. But Blofeld's not number 1. It's not a structure thing. It's randomly assigned numbers, so no one ever knows. No, if anyone ever finds out about Spectre, they don't know who's stationed where in the rankings. Yeah. In this, it is just a straight number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, like that kind of a thing, which seems less complex. Also, we have we get the like pressing a button and like killing somebody. Like, you have a bunch of people and like, you failed me, right? That scene's so much better in the book, because what happens is, the reason that guy dies is because they steal a rich daughter, like the daughter of royalty, and they ransom her. And they promise that she would be returned completely unaltered, completely intact.
Yeah.
He slept with her. The guy that kidnapped her slept with her. And if I remember correctly, I haven't been back to the book in a while, but if I remember correctly, it's consensual. Like, they have sex together. But they said she would be returned intact. And now she's lost her virginity.
Mm.
So he just kills him and gives the people back half of the ransom money. Which is a really like, that makes Blofeld so interesting, that he's so principled, and we have none of that.
Yeah.
He's just evil mastermind guy. It's a little disappointing. That's the scene that
so far they've always done that to their villains.
Yeah. That's the scene that that really sticks with me. Thunderball is not my favorite book. That scene has always stuck with me as like a really iconic scene. Here it's just, you messed up and now you're dead. Kind of a thing. I think it's James Bond. I think I can talk about this. I think up to this point, this film has the most gorgeous Bond girls. Like, these ones are so far ahead of the previous Bond girls in the looks department, which I didn't remember. But like, while watching, I was like, oh, like, these women are really attractive. Like, the women in the previous movies, I'm not saying aren't attractive. Like, they're James Bond movies, but like, I was like, oh, like, they're considerably more attractive in this movie. That's impressive. Because when you start with the most beautiful women in the world, it's impressive that you can like scale up.
Yeah, where do you go from there?
Yeah. So there's the.
I mean, not that that's not somewhat subjective, but yeah.
Well, yeah. So there's kind of the two main Bond girls. One is Domino, and then the other one is evil. And this is part of the Bond formula, is that there's two Bond girls, and one of them is evil and can be redeemed, like Pussy Galore, or one of them is evil and will not be redeemed.
Right.
This is the first one where she's not redeemed, and it's great because they sleep together, and then immediately is when she like reveals like, "Ha, I'm evil," and then she gives him this like just complete like tear down where she's like, oh, James Bond walks in with his magic skills and changes a woman to the side of right and do-gooding, and like her entire speech is word for word a review from part of a review from Goldfinger.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then James Bond's just like real smug, where he's like, well, yes, it was all for Queen and Country. You don't think I got any pleasure out of it, did you? And she's real scorned and not happy about the fact that he's acting like he didn't have a good time.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I want to think that 60s Batman is making fun of specifically that.
Probably.
With the redeemable, where like every female bad guy or henchman is redeemable and is going
it's
to
all
prison.
making fun of Goldfinger.
But they're just James Bond movies in general. Because when I reviewed those, in Rewind, I couldn't decide how much of it was satire and how much of it was just embracing the sensibilities about women at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so tongue-in-cheek, like everything in that show. Mm-hmm. That like I want to think they were looking at movies like that anyway, mm-hmm. and being like, yeah, we always treat the women differently.
Yeah. So all in all, Thunderball is a really good James Bond film with a not great ending, and that might be up to personal taste. Once we go underwater, I think the film's really boring.
And from then on.
Well, yeah, but that's like just kind of the third act. Like, I guess we go to water before that, and like we have the shark and whatnot.
Yeah.
But like specifically the undersea battle.
Yeah.
I think is really boring. And Domino gets to kill Largo. The Bond girl gets to kill the bad guy, who was kind of her lover. She's like his kept woman. Like, they have a relationship.
Okay.
It's a whole thing, and her brother is involved with the plot in a way that I'm not going to explain. But don't worry that you didn't watch this one, because you're going to get to see this plot again next movie.
Oh, good.
And like, I almost literally, because it's a stolen nuclear sub, and next movie it's going to be a stolen spaceship, and then later, Spy Who Loved Me will do another stolen, I think, nuclear sub again, and then the movie after that is Moonraker, and there's also a stolen thing in that. This exact plot is done 4 times.
And they just keep going back and forth between sea and space.
Yes.
Weird.
Yes. Thunderball. If you've not seen it, you should. It's a really good James Bond movie.
And we would be remiss if we didn't mention, which I brought this up before, but I always love mentioning it, that Thunderball gives us Skyhook.
Yes.
Which Nolan uses in Dark Knight. Which
Which is also a thing that I'd forgotten. I'm glad you brought that up, because I meant to mention this.
Yeah.
So, do you remember how Skyhook is used in this?
Vaguely. Well, I thought it was toward the end.
It is.
Okay, and that's why I was surprised when you said that the whole third act is boring. Because I'm like, but isn't Skyhook toward the end, like right at the end?
It is.
Yeah.
So we blow everything up, right? And then James Bond gets on a sex boat with the lady at the end, right?
Because he has to do that.
Yeah, he has to do that.
I don't think we got a sex boat last movie.
We did not.
Though.
We did not. It was not
forevermore. We will. That is now christened the sex boat. Anyway.
So James Bond and the lady
Family Channel, but
the James Bond and the lady are on the sex boat, and then he deploys like a thing. Like that is how Skyhook is used in this movie. It's how James Bond and the lady get rescued from the situation at the end of the movie.
Yeah. That's what I thought it was.
I always remember it being used more as like actually part of the plot, and I was like, oh yeah, no, that's right. It's just right at the end. That's how him and the lady get out of the sex boat, which was not christened.
It didn't even need to be that elaborate.
Yep. But yeah, no. Thunderball's really good.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody, and good job, Eric, with your Thunderball review. And next time...
And the theme song I don't hate. I don't love the theme song, but I don't hate it. I don't like Goldfinger. Thunderball's good enough. I feel like I should mention the theme, because it's part of James Bond. I like Thunderball. It's fun. It's not one of my favorites, but it's not one of my least favorites.
So, you mentioned earlier, remind us one more time which one we're doing next time.
Next time is You Only Live Twice.
And is that one you want me to watch?
Yeah, just because it's the first. That one and the next one, because that's the first Blofeld, and it is the Blofeld that everyone knows. It is the one with the scar and the cat and...
That whole thing.
Yeah. So, just for historical context, I think you should see that one. Okay. And it is what Dr. Evil is doing.
Yeah.
Like, that is the Blofeld he is based on. Yeah, so that's one I think you should watch just for historical context. And next one, and the one after that, you should watch because it's really important. Or, I mean, it's really good, I think.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for watching, folks. Next up on the Omnibus, we're going to do He Made Me Watch, and this time Eric made me watch Starship Troopers, so look forward to our discussion about that. And in the meantime, I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And thanks for watching.